Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in to the very first video of the Smoke&Oak YouTube channel. I'm very glad to see you guys here, and I wanted to get this video out right before the end of the year because it's my goal to get it kicked off before January 1st. So this is the very first video we're doing on the Smoke&Oak YouTube channel, and I appreciate you tuning in. YouTube setup's getting a little bit better as time goes on, but I apologize for the rudimentary YouTube setup that I have here going on right now. I'm shooting this on my iPhone. I'm sure the audio is not very great, the video is not great, but hey, we're out here, we're making videos, and we're having a lot of fun. So I thought I would do a little bit of introduction of myself. My name is Justin, I go by JT. I kind of started my journey through spirits, starting with rum, probably like a lot of other people who didn't have a good palate for bourbons. I always drank my rum kind of on the rocks with some sort of a Coke product on top, usually Pepsi, because I'm not a communist. And I kind of got into whiskey within the last probably couple of years. I started getting more into the whiskey flavors. Now I prefer to drink whiskey. Actually, I prefer to drink whiskey neat, even over on the rocks. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to kick off this YouTube channel and pop a cork on the very first bottle of bourbon that I personally ever purchased. It's not the first bourbon I've ever had. I'm pretty sure the first bourbon I ever tasted was probably Canadian whiskey. Was probably a fair bet because I lived in Washington State. My dad was a Canadian whiskey fan, so I'm sure that's the first whiskey I ever tried. Either that or maybe a Crown Royal. The first whiskey I ever had that I had in a social gathering was probably Jack 7. I think that's probably fair for a lot of people. Jack Daniels is a pretty popular whiskey out there. But the first bourbon that I ever purchased is none other than Basil Hayden. So if you've never had Basil Hayden before, I apologize, it's not zooming in there. Here we go. Basil Hayden. Basil Hayden is a small batch distillate. That's what I'm trying to say. Small batch distillate from the Jim Beam Company. So in 1992, Booker Noel started the Basil Hayden small batch distillery as a tribute to Meredith Basil Hayden Sr. It's a small batch high rye bourbon. So the mash bill on this is 63% corn, 27% rye, and then 10% malted barley on that one. It comes in at 80 proof, so it's just 40% ABV. They call it artfully aged, but it doesn't have an age stamp on it. Best guess is probably 2 to 4 years. I don't know for sure on that though, so don't quote me on the age stamp on these ones. The mash bill that Jim Beam uses for this particular, what am I trying to say? This particular small batch whiskey is the same as they use in their Old Grandad or Old Grandad 114. So if you've tried those before, similar flavor profiles to what you'll find in those. So if you're familiar at all with the small batch bourbon collection from the Jim Beam, Basil Hayden's one of the small batch distilleries. They also have Booker's. I believe Baker's is another one. And then the Basil Hayden's, like these have here, obviously. And then lastly is Knob Creek. So we do have some Knob Creek we'll be sampling on the channel at a later date. But we're going to start off with the very first bourbon that I ever bought. We'll sample that as the very first bourbon that I'm kicking off on the Smoke&Oak YouTube channel. I do have, by way of comparison, probably won't crack this open today, but I do have Basil Hayden's 10-year age stamped whiskey as well, which I'm kind of excited to give this one a whirl at some point and compare it to the Basil Hayden regular, and we'll see how those two compare to one another. But as of right now, we're just gonna crack open this bad boy. So this is take number 2. I apologize, the seal's already broken on this one, but we're gonna give it a whirl here. So Glencairn, pour that guy in there. Oh yeah, on the nose right away, it's got sweet caramel. I'm tasting a little bit of peaches, fresh fruit, mixed berries in there. It's got a spice note, but it's light. It's like maybe a light peppery note. It's a little on the lighter side. It's a low proof, right? So okay, definitely some light pepper. I can taste the rye spices that are in there. The rye spice comes forward quite easily. A little bit of leather there on the end, probably just slightly though, not too bad. Definitely some vanilla flavor. Charred oak, I'm getting some barrel oak in there for sure. Its finish is pretty smooth, and the burn lasts for very, very minimal amount of time. Again, as expected with only an 80 proof whiskey, it doesn't linger. Finishes pretty quickly. I feel like, at least in this version, I might liken it better to be mixed in something, just being honest. So we're gonna give that a whirl. Give me just a second here. All right, I got a rocks glass here. So we're gonna put the rest of that in there. Don't wanna waste any, you know? Get a little more extra pour in there. Cheers. So this is Basil Hayden on the rocks. I definitely think a little bit of water, a little bit of ice opens that up nicely. Which is weird to say because it's only an 80 proof. So you'd think that you'd want to proof it down any more than that, it wouldn't taste very good. Last thing I like to do a lot with my whiskeys, and we figured to give it a shot because it's the first video, why not go all three? A little, let me get you zoomed in here, little Fever Tree ginger beer. I prefer the ginger beer over the ginger ale, only because the ginger beer has a little bit more of a bite to it, and I kind of enjoy that. So we're gonna give that a whirl. So just a splash, you don't need much. It doesn't take much flavor. We'll do 2 splashes. Perfect. That's good stuff right there. So I would suggest give it a try neat for sure. Definitely try it neat. Try it on the rocks. And if you feel like it, try with a little ginger beer. It's definitely the way that I'm gonna drink it. That's Basil Hayden whiskey. Again, 80 proof, high rye mash bill, 27% rye, 63% corn, 13% malted barley on this guy. It's from the Jim Beam Distilling Company, comes out of Claremont in Frankfort, Kentucky. Good bourbon, great bourbon, and I believe MSRP on it's about 45 bucks, and you can find it on most liquor store shelves. I definitely say you should go pick that one up. Smoke&Oak score, I'm gonna give it a solid 6. We're not gonna go too high on that one. It's a great place to start. We're gonna give it a 6.0. Thank you for tuning into the Smoke&Oak YouTube channel. Cheers, get yourself some Basil Hayden. We'll see you in the next one.